All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Goose Chasing. Yeah, another week, middle of March. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can check out the merch on our website, TAGNBRAG.co. Go to the merch page, and we've got 3 different colors of this hoodie, all $30 a piece. Closeout sale, getting in some new summer wears or something like that. But yeah, Dino's got it set up on there. Go to the website and check it out. Get you a hoodie at a discounted price, might I add.
Yeah, you can't find no plain cotton hoodies for $30. So
Yeah,
these are nice ones.
they're
I don't know exactly what they're made of, but I know
they're
I know it's
comfortable as
not just
shit.
straight cotton. Even though I love the straight cotton
You gotta
hoodies,
love a good cotton hoodie, you
but
know.
these ones are a step up. So
It is. I mean, you guys see them as you guys see us in them all the time for a reason because they're comfortable. They are. So if you want them right now, they're normally 45 on the website. But right now they're 30, and that's not going to last. It's while supplies last. So check them out.
go steal them. You're literally stealing them from your boys.
Just close your eyes, Dino. Let them into the apparel room.
I'll
Close
let
your
you
eyes.
in the back sliding door, and you can just
Close
go in
your
and take one.
eyes. Tag and Brag or Goose Chasing is also brought to you by Tag and Brag Productions, Land Management. You got any land management projects on the horizon, Dino?
I'm projecting our own land.
When are you off the clock?
At the moment, which is good with me. Yeah, I know. When am I off the clock?
What is? I mean, like, tell me, what are you doing right now? What's on the to-do list? What's the priorities?
Yeah, so right now the biggest focus for me is a lot of TSI and just kind of creating bedding areas.
Can you explain to us what TSI is?
Yes.
The acronym in an extended acronym form.
But first of all, I've kind of a lot of people will focus themselves on, their food plots, which is important, or, certain areas of your property. But this was maybe a couple months ago. I was watching a video of Bill Winke, and he was,
Love the Winkster.
yeah, I love the Winkster, and he is like, if you should look at it, really doesn't matter how big your property is. You should look at every acre, and if it's not, that every acre of your property should be for a purpose.
That's deep
Not
shit.
if it might be for timber production. It might not necessarily be for the deer.
Right.
It might be, maybe it's for farming. It should have a purpose. Whether if it's not making you money and you love deer hunting, it should be something that's beneficial for the deer. Maybe you love riding 4-wheelers or dirt bikes, and it's got something to do with that on it, but it should be for a purpose. And there's just a lot of parts of our land that we don't really ever mess with. We'll hunt them, they'll be like travel routes, or we'll put tree stands in them, but they're never we never do anything to them with the purpose of how can this be better hunting here or benefit a deer. So I'm trying to go through and target those areas and say how can we change these a little bit to not just for deer, but for turkey.
I'm assuming most of those areas are going to be, or the projections are, like, create more cover.
Yeah, and for sure. And
natural browse could come with it.
Yeah, it will come with it. And I've actually noticed, some of the parts of the property that we logged in the last few years. And you're kind of like, oh man, we just don't have the thickness growing up with the sunlight that's coming in that you would want. Well, we actually are getting a lot of growth there, but the deer are pounding it,
destroying it.
Yeah, I didn't realize. You actually go and look at the browse that's coming up, even just the new saplings, trees, for whatever is coming up, the deer are pounding it. So we just need more of it.
Yeah, I feel
need
that.
more of it, and that's just what we're. And in turn, some of the stuff I want to do is twofold. It will create more deer cover, but we have a lot of trees species that don't really benefit anything, and they are um co-living with a lot of like timber future timber trees. So not only, you know, cutting those trees down or just killing them, whatever, is going to create better growth opportunity for the money trees, even though it might be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. It's also just letting in more sunlight. You get good turkey cover, good deer cover, good deer food.
I mean, shit, cuz I learned something from you most days that we
Yeah.
talk, you
Yeah.
know? You're smarter than a lot of people think.
Smarter than I look.
I mean, that's why we drafted you in '89, 2nd
Even like
round.
even going down to we have a lot of apple trees on our property in New York. A lot of other places don't, but this applies to any fruit or nut producing tree. Like I've looked at a lot of our big apple trees on the property, and some of them are just getting towered by these like aspen trees or something.
Yeah.
And I didn't really even think about it, but those need to come out because that
Give them the sunlight and the
anything,
nutrients.
yeah, anything that produces a nut or a fruit needs sunlight to produce that nut or fruit.
So if they're
So
getting choked out with trees around it, that could be as important as
yes,
planting another one,
for sure.
at least from a production standpoint, like
It's
in
almost more
the short.
important because that thing's already established.
Right, yeah, in
Like
the short term, yeah.
same thing with like a lot of I don't want to get off on a crazy tangent, but like even oak trees, which we don't have like any, we don't have any. Well, we have some that were planted, but we don't have any natural really oak trees on that property anymore, at least. Um, but even stuff like that, when you go through and do TSI, a lot of guys will like you should take out a portion of those. They say like I think 30% of oak trees in an oak stand are producing 70% of the nuts.
Okay.
And a lot of
Yeah.
that's because those are probably the ones that are towering up, towering up into the heavens, into the sunlight.
Yeah, they're reaching up and
Some of
touching
these,
the
yeah.
loins of the Lord.
But yeah, some of that work is just stuff that we haven't done a lot in the past. We've done some like hinge cutting to create bedding, but we've never really done it to help with timber or just to create more, get more light in certain areas. So
Hmm, we
it's a
gotta do
lot of
that.
work. I mean, with the amount of portions of the property that need it, I mean, it's 3 to 4, even 5 years worth of just get the saw out,
Start chopping.
start chopping firewood, and just yeah, let it lay. But deer like they like that structure as much as they do
Oh,
the
for sure they
the
do.
the top that's laying on the those big trees that are laying down. They can nestle up against them, and you can't see into them normally.
Right, well, yeah, they know that they're hidden, at
Yeah,
least, and they if they set themselves up with, like, a good vantage and the wind at their back or however they're comfortable, then, yeah, lay down right here, big
creates
fella.
creates a lot of a lot of structure cover that they can like.
Like a big bass. They
But
like structure.
this is a good time to do that kind of stuff because it's too. I mean, yeah, we had a stretch of great weather, and we just got blasted with 4 to 6 inches of snow yesterday, and now it's going to be in the mid 60s all the rest of the week. So you're not putting a tractor anywhere really on the property without making a mess. So
Yeah.
you got to just get a saw out and
Do it by foot.
do work by foot if you're
Do
not
it.
shed hunting, which got to do that too. But
Yeah. It's so crazy. There's like a wave. I saw a lot of people finding sheds like in February, and
some people are
now
just starting.
some people are just starting. Yeah.
I've seen a couple people post on their story like first one of the year or like first walk of
Heart
the year.
Heartland Bowhunter just did like this morning.
Yeah,
They must have posted something from over the weekend, and they found a ton of sheds, but I'm like, holy shit.
it's got to be. I don't know. Some of it's just where you're at because I agree. Some people are walking in January.
Yeah.
I'm like, all of our deer are still have horns.
Have their yeah,
Like
what are you
like
looking for?
90% of them have horns still at that point.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying you can't find them, but you're also the sample size is significantly smaller.
Oh my god, yeah. Unless you're looking for, like, a specific one that you know just shed and that's what you wanna but yeah.
I mean, even, Don Kiski, I love that guy too.
Oh, Donnie.
He,
He could be, like he could easily just be an uncle and just be
I love yeah,
cool to
just
talk to.
know he's not trying to do anything in his videos. He's just t
Showing you what he loves.
he's just doing what he yeah, I don't know, it's cool. But he goes out and looks around his cameras, and he finds them because he's in the deer mecca, and he's got deer
Mm,
every
yeah,
so he finds them 10 yards from his trail cameras, but he says, like, mid 2nd week of March is when he really starts walking.
because you got I mean, yeah, at that point, more than likely, 90% anyway are,
Yeah, 9
if
again,
not
we
more.
can't
Dude,
see
that
point
wide
in our
one,
still, and the 2 bucks he's with still have them.
that's crazy. That freaking deer's gonna be big. Oh, there's one in the pipeline, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be huge.
Gonna be huge. It is funny too how they seems like they lose their racks similar times
Mhm.
every year because we have pictures of that deer.
Last year.
I don't know when he lost it, his rack, but I just have a photo saved on my phone from the 18th of March that
Damn.
he still has both sides of last
He's
year,
got another week. He's got another week or so.
and he still has them both as of last night. So
Week from today, you could start walking
then it means
over
I got to
there.
start walking. Yeah.
Yeah. Those ones won't be hard to find.
No,
They shouldn't be.
no, you should be able to see those from a
From a
ways
country
away.
day. Mhm.
So yeah, this is always the warm weather got me antsy. I'm like, man, I got to start like doing some work, you know.
To the
But
pot, yeah, to pots
then
and
I start yeah, like just anything like let's start getting stuff ready, and then I realized it's the first week of March.
down
Almost
here,
so
I mean, um I was in the woods the other day and like the first stuff that starts popping, all those little bushes and stuff with the little green leaves, like they're they're starting to pop down here already.
yeah, honestly, dude, there's stuff here that is acting the same way. Start those some of those bushes, I'm starting to see like the green buds on them,
Mhm.
and I'm like, shit, like is this bad? Because it's early.
Well, yeah, and you guys got snow again. I mean, that's not gonna kill that off completely, but
No, because it didn't. I don't even know if it went below freezing.
when it snowed.
Yeah, like if it did, it didn't go. It wasn't much below. Maybe last night it did a little bit, but it's already melting super fast right now. But yeah, with those whatever the tulips and stuff, you already see them. They're sprouting. There's like 6 inches already, all in the
Yeah,
woods. You see them. But that's usually middle of April.
I know. It's like, what's going on here? You know,
What's gonna happen?
is somebody trying to tell us something?
I hope like that doesn't happen with apple crops and stuff like that where
They start budding and then
they
yeah, you
start
get a
really going
freeze and then they're done.
and then you get like a yeah, usually if you get a like even if it happens for one night, sometimes they can withstand it, but if you get like a full day of below freezing or 2 nights of freezing, yeah, it's going to nip it.
It's going to nip them apples right in the butt.
Going to nip it.
That'd be a bummer. Gotta love them apples. Macintosh.
Yeah, especially when you're doing work to try to help them.
Oh, well, yeah, even more, yeah.
Even more of a kick in the shorts.
But the deer, especially up in New York, like it seems like that mid-October, and maybe it's more of October, but like the mid-October through, you know, at least getting into the rut, those apples are
King.
they are friggin' dynamite. It's like
That's what they prefer.
it's like
Yeah.
acorns in other parts of the country or whatever at
Yeah, and
that time of year.
I think almost work like that's if there's an apple, they will eat that over anything.
Yeah.
Soybean, corn, whatever it is, their
Yeah, it's pretty
turnip
wild.
plot. They
And
are
and the crazy part is, just based on the trail cameras we have, set up, like, you can tell those when the apples are running out of that tree based on the trail
shuts right
camera
up.
that's on it,
Yeah.
and then but it's like, you almost have to time them up correctly, like, when you
You
see
do.
him start hitting that specific apple tree, it's like, "Alright," it's like hitting a scrape, like, you gotta go in and maybe sit somewhere close, figure out if he's gonna
If
come poke out and take a nibble.
if you have like a 2 or 3 good apple trees and like in a spot and you have camera on it, if there's any of the deer that are in the area, but if there's a good buck working it,
Mhm.
you're gonna get them on camera. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Likely.
that time of year especially.
Not to mention usually at some spot around that apple tree, they're probably gonna scrape just
Right.
because 'cause they're naturally there,
There, yeah.
and then so that
I
helps,
mean,
but
shit, that one buck that I saw this year up in New York, he left Poon for apples.
yeah,
He let that he let his lover just run off and started munching on apples.
yeah, they love them.
Need not say more.
They love them, and they know that they are a like, they know that that's an abundant food source, but that's very short-lived.
Yeah.
They have, like, 2 months to just crush them, and I think they know that.
And it's wild to watch, like, even some of the turnip plots that have they're still good in that October time when they're eating the green, but, like, right now, it seems like is when they're really hammering the bulbs because they must be, like, they're so exposed, they're palatable now, or I don't know what it is, but it it's funny how, like, sometimes we'll get frustrated at a turnip plot during the fall, or just specific times, could be end of October, whatever, but then it comes to, like, that later part of the season or after a snow thaw or something, weirdly enough, and they will just hammer that shit.
Hammer them.
It's like they save them almost. Like, they know, and they're like, "We're gonna save this for when it gets tough or when
Gotcha.
everything else is gone."
Yeah. I've noticed just walking the plots again, it's the turnips are there's turnips or radishes, they can be deceiving because definitely what the deer are seeking is the green
Yeah.
on top, and a lot of our plots, just because of the light winter, still have
Uh,
green, and I mean, there's definitely bulbs in there that are eaten up, that's for sure, but there's 1,000 of them in the dirt still,
yeah.
but there always is.
Yeah, I
Seems like
mean,
there's
it
always turnips rotting in the ground or they really start regrowing in the spring. Like turkey season, you get the yellow
yeah.
flowers from the turnips that come back up because they never finish them. I don't know why that is, but
Well, that started when we started planting good corn and soybeans, that started because
yeah,
prior to that, it was all turnips. Like, if you
yeah,
didn't
that's all
have
we
if
had.
if you didn't introduce that, like, grain to them, you probably would still be seeing that to some degree.
Yeah,
I know there's, like,
true.
neighboring properties and guys that are hunting and stuff that are planting a lot more corn, at least, for the deer, but that change, I noticed it most significantly when we started, growing good corn and good beans.
Yeah, definitely. And
And
some
it's almost like
it's
they literally will polish a corn or a bean field, and it's like, yeah, they save that. They
time to go
save
to the
those
turnip.
turnips when it's like there's literally they know there's not much left, and yeah, for whatever reason, they just I mean, because yeah, we've seen
We've
after the
had
season, whatever, you see 20, 30 deer in this tiny turnip
an
plot.
acre plot, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
and some of it maybe 2 or 3 years ago when we were seeing that. I mean, we had there were times there was a winter or 2 in a row where we had, like, 45 days straight of freezing, like, it never got above freezing,
yeah,
deep freeze, and I think
that's what sparked
that's what induces that a lot because
uh,
we haven't had that the last 2 years. I mean,
no.
we've had, like, a week stretch here or there of a small deep freeze, but then it thaws and
Yeah. Yeah,
but
you're right. We
I
haven't we
do
have not
remember,
had
yeah,
that.
when you get 30 to 40 days plus of just never above freezing, it puts the deer in a different state. That's when they start eating the hemlock needles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But every year's different. I'm anxious to see what this spring has in store for us because last year we were turkey hunting the first week in snow.
I
But
know.
we did get a stretch of this weather before that
Before that, yeah.
because I was doing some work in April. It was like super nice. And then all hell went
Then all
broke
hell broke loose.
all hell broke loose
Oh shit.
but this week looks good, so
Yeah.
hopefully it kinda we're
Start
definitely
drying things out a bit.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Sure would be nice. So we were talking a little bit last week about a story we said we were going to tell, and it's goose chasing. That's kind of why we started this. It's about the goose chases that we've been on, the goose chasing of life. And some of these goose chases, it's kind of why we're here.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, some of the experiences that we got at a very young age, I don't know, there's probably not that many kids that get to experience some of the stuff hunting wise. And I remember when we first started to like experience rut activity and how insane of like a phenomenon that was in my brain.
Yeah.
Like only like 1 or 2 weeks out of the year, the whitetail woods just explodes with movement and with action and yeah, I was just I remember like the first insane rut experience that I encountered. I had to be, I mean, 10 maybe. Dad, we were hunting. It was bow season. I think you were hunting with Uncle Jay. I was with Dad. Yeah, you guys were in the lower orchard. We were in the upper orchard. That was the two. Talk about the apple trees. Back in the day,
That's all we hunted.
it was upper and lower orchard. That's where like if you were hunting
There
with a
was a
bow.
handful of we had like 5 orchards. Well, we call them orchards. Some of them were like 6 apple trees,
Yeah, but
whatever.
the lower orchard, that was
That
what?
was an
That's
orchard.
probably like a 2 to 3 acre
Yeah, maybe more than
literal.
that.
And
It's
at
all
that
apple
time,
trees.
yeah, at that time, you would walk in there, you couldn't not step on an apple. Like it was literally like
It was
walking on golf balls through
Yeah, in the
that.
dark in the morning. It was hard to walk, like, you'd be rolling ankles.
It was insane. And I mean, obviously, the deer were piled in there because of it. And then the same thing with the upper orchard. It was probably like this, I don't know, 4 to 5 acre like strip of timber, and it was bigger timber in between like probably another 4 to 5 acre really big dense pocket of pines, and then the other side of the strip was of wide open field, probably I don't know, 8 to 10 acre field maybe, and then closer to the road was another strip of like big
Apples.
apple trees.
Yeah,
So
there's
and
apples
all
everywhere.
and literally like all throughout this, like the bigger hardwoods that we would set up a stand in, it was all just like sporadic apple trees. There was still, I mean, there was apples everywhere. Like
Yeah.
we would go to these two spots because they had the most action. So Dad and Uncle Jay could kind of keep us occupied in a sense.
Entertained.
And there was action all the time. Like
Oh,
what
you'd
we
walk in,
experienced.
blow deer out,
And
and
then you
then as
would get
soon as
in.
you would get in, you would be like, "Oh, there's deer."
Right. And nothing like we did not see many deer bigger than like a 2.5-year-old 8 point. Like
That was
that was
that
a big buck.
yeah, if you saw one of
Think
those,
about
you
that.
were like, you had a day.
Like I'm talking about like 14 inches wide, like tines about as big as your fingers, and like, brow tines like maybe like an inch and a half big. Just just barely at the ears,
He
but
would
just enough rack to get you to be like, "Well, that's not a 4 point. Holy
"Oh,
fuck.
man, I saw a big deer.
I saw a big deer."
I saw a big deer." You would start, like, naming them.
Yeah,
at that size, or like referring to them.
yeah, like, yeah, exactly. And I remember the one morning, Dad and I go up there, dark. We always got in. Like then, we don't do this. We're not as strict with this. It's really the spots that we go to depend on like kind of the time you go in there because it's really all about the access. But it didn't matter if we was lower orchard, upper orchard, in the back at one of Dad's old back stands, by the cabin stand, anywhere we went, it was in the dark.
Yeah,
Like the darkest of the dark. Never once used a flashlight ever.
can't do that.
That was giving yourself up as if trouncing through like over sticks and through leaves in the pitch black was not giving you up enough because there was nothing stealthy about getting in that pitch black. Like I could, Dad's 3 feet in front of me, I could barely see his back, and I'm just going by noise. Like I'm just following I'm following the noise. Meanwhile, I'm like 10 years old, shitting my pants because
Yeah,
I can hear like owls and you hear deer like a
any
yeah, you hear a deer snort 4 feet to your left and just blow through like
you're
a
like, "What was
quiet
that?"
woods, and you're
Had to be a
just like,
bear. Had to be a bear.
"Fucking A, man." Like it was always it was insane. So the first crazy, crazy rut activity that I saw that I remember, Dad and I went up to the upper orchard, which was also a hike. I mean, it was a hike.
Yeah,
There's no two ways about it. Like it was a good walk to get in there. We get in, set up in the dark, whatever. It's like just getting light. Maybe the sun starts to peak up, and we look, and under one of the apple trees at like 40 yards from us is this fucking tiny little 3 point, and the one his one rack side was like a straight up post right off the base of his head, and literally just like a hook. It went straight up, and then it was like a fish. It literally almost looked like a fish hook.
yeah.
Just like one little hook, and then the other side was like a little split. I mean, you could barely see the rack over this thing's ears. Dad's like, "Oh my god, there's a buck over there." So he like starts getting ready, and this thing is not in rut mode at all. He's just eating apples.
Too young to breed.
Yeah, exactly. His deke didn't work yet. He like I remember he slowly makes his way to us and finally gets broadside, and at this point he's probably at like 30 yards, which I mean, with the aluminum arrows they had and shit like that back then, like that was a launch.
Yeah.
So this thing's broadside, like in the wide open, and Dad pulls back, and I'm like sitting like over his shoulder. I could see it still to this day. Like I'm over his shoulder, like almost as if you had a camera view of this whole hunt. And he sends this arrow, and it would like it literally clipped the lower branches of like the big trees above us, like the arc on this thing. It was like Doug Flutie throwing a fucking bomb missile. And it just center massed this thing. Like it could not have been more perfectly center of the body, up and down and left and right. Just center mass this thing. You know, now I would instantly say you freaking grass
Ooh.
bagged them right away. Like
Ooh.
not good. So this deer, he runs like probably 20, 30 yards back, banana curls around, and he stops. And he's kind of like behind these trees, but we could see like his ass end sticking out the one side and his head, you know, kind of like you could see the makeup of the deer still. And he's standing there and he's standing there and he's standing there. And once again, now knowing what I know, I'm like, grass bag. You know, this is going to be a long day, unfortunately. And he lays down. Okay. So we're like, you know, Dad's like, hey, you know, we got him. We just gotta like, you know, let him do his thing for a second. And you know, so we have to sit here. We gotta stay for a while. Well, I don't know if it was a half hour, 45 minutes, whatever later, we see a buck and a doe come out of the pines behind us, and they run right by the buck that he shot. And when like they literally that this was like a, pretty decent, like, basket 8-pointer, significantly bigger than the one that he shot. But all the while, like, we're just kind of like, we're like, oh my God, like, that was crazy. He runs by these deer and he's kind of grunting, but he is right on this doe's ass. And the buck that he shot gets up and he starts kind of like, the low, just like the waddle, like this hurts waddle kind of. And he goes back, I don't know, probably another 40 yards or so, and I think we caught him laying down again. But once again, we didn't want to get out. We didn't want to spook the deer anymore. So we're just kind of observing in the tree what he's doing, and we're just in the tree. Well, dude, I don't know if it was another half hour, 45 minutes after that, but like we're kind of maybe in conversation, not really paying attention to our surroundings, and all of a sudden it sounded like a freight train coming through the leaves, and it was a doe that had come from the field. And we're probably like, I'd probably say like 60 yards off the field, and we're probably like 30 yards from it's a pine wall. Like, it's a wall of pines. You can't see into it. It's just a straight wall. And these pines are pretty tall. Now, I mean, they're 30, 40 feet tall at least. So this doe comes off the field and I could just hear shit. And next thing I know, she's like right under our tree, maybe like 10, 15 yards off to our right. And she just stops and her tongue is hanging out and she is just like spewing saliva everywhere. And I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen anything like this before. We hear a grunt and I look up, and literally as I look up, you could just see the silhouette of this thing coming right at us. And this freaking buck that was wider and bigger than at the time than any buck that I had ever seen in my life. Bigger body, bigger head, way bigger rack, like just unlike anything I've ever seen. And he comes trotting through, grunting and shit. And he gets like probably 30 yards into the hardwoods off the field line, and he doesn't know where she's at because she's stopped. And he stops behind this tree, and and this tree was like this big ass cherry tree, whatever. And the crotch of it started at like, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet off the ground. It was a massive split in the tree. And when he stopped, all you could see was his head in the split of the tree. You couldn't see his body, just his head in the split. And he's like looking for, and he's waving this freaking gargantuan of a wide rack, like back and forth and back and forth. And he's looking for, and I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like the 10-year-old inside of me, my little 10-year-old heart literally wanted to just explode out of my chest, dude. I'd never seen anything like this before. The energy in the woods was literally through the roof, man. It was crazy. It was like getting supercharged, and you weren't moving. I'm like, I'm like looking at her and looking at him, and I don't know what's going on. Like, at this point, I'm not old enough to like understand bucks chase does, bucks produce, they
Why are they chasing?
yeah, exactly. Why are they chasing? What are they doing? So all of a sudden the doe takes off, and she literally beelines it for the wall of pines, and she probably had like 20, 25 yards to run, and she bolted into the pines and disappeared. And no sooner did she do that, he was right, like, he finally saw her, and he was right behind her, and friggin' bulldozed through this pine wall with his massive wide rack and just gone. And I was like, holy, like, it was almost like dad shooting the buck earlier, like, was completely erased from my mind at that point. Cause I was just like, I had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
45 minutes later, we hear him coming, like, once again, a freight train through these pines. And all of a sudden she barrels out. And as soon as she gets out, she hangs a left and like parallels the pine, like in the hardwoods, but parallels the pines as far as we could see her. He does the same thing. They never stop. He's snort wheezing and grunting and just bulldozing through these bushes and shit like that right on her ass. And it was like the second, round of it, it was just like, oh my gosh, like that was freaking insane. Dude, insane. Never seen anything like that before. And after that, it was like, I gotta keep doing this. Like I wanna do that.
That's what hooked you.
That's yeah. And
The
I
the
remember
staple hunt.
that hunt, dad was horrified too. Mind you, he'd
Yeah.
been he'd been
He
hunting
shot a 3-point.
yeah, he'd been hunting 25
That's
years
what we
probably
did,
at that
yeah.
point. And but that buck, like they didn't, even all the years that he had been hunting up there in Pennsylvania, Ohio, wherever they hunted, like he didn't see you didn't see bucks like that every year.
No.
It was few and far between. So the fact that we were that close in bow season, like I could tell through his reaction and his energy, which is always amplified, just like mine. Uh, like I could see that and I could feel that. And so I knew how significant of a moment it was, even though that was it was like a first timer thing for me.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you remember any like coming out of the woods and us telling that story or whatever. Like the
I
energy of
do.
that day was crazy. But that was the first buck that I remember being kind of nicknamed, and Dad nicknamed him the granddaddy because he said he was the granddaddy of all bucks, literally all bucks,
All bucks.
like lifetime. That was the granddaddy of all bucks. And dude, when he was coming through, I mean that he was probably 23 to 24 inches wide, like
Yeah,
massive frame coming through the woods, and especially when you're not accustomed to that, was horrified.
yeah.
Horrified.
No, that deer was known around the whole block that year because I remember
Yeah,
there were some other hunters that we're friends with that were, like, big deer hunters then. They
right,
were, like, big deer bow hunters, like, find the deer, spotlight them because that's what they did and that's what they do in New York, to find them and then go find sign and go hunt them, and that there were
right.
people hunting that deer.
Oh, absolutely, and I got the final chapter on that deer, which is actually the story that we were referring to last week. Um, Hang on a second, I might have to delete something. Son of a bitch!
Yeah, I unfortunately, some of the hardcore, rut and first couple weekends of gun season, I was like it seemed like shit always happened on, like, the Saturday mornings. That's, like, when shit always went down, and maybe that's because that's when we were hunting. But I always had basketball
Yeah, you did.
Sunday mornings. I always had it at, like, 9 in the morning, so I could never be up in New York to hunt with you guys Friday night or Saturday morning, and God bless mom and dad, they would figure out how to get me there usually, like, Sunday or Saturday afternoon or whatever. Most weekends, some weekends I just couldn't be up there, but
Yeah, you're
yeah.
right. They would come like do a halfway swap, and
Or
you'd figure
find
out how to
someone that was like riding up there and get me to their I would ride with them or
right,
figure out how to
right.
get up there. And again, a lot of weekends I couldn't
I
couldn't
forgot because when we took down the granddaddy, you weren't there,
I
right?
was not there, no.
No, you
Didn't
weren't
get to
there.
experience. I had to experience this all over phone call conversations.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
the only way you could do it back then. I remember even when you got a deer.
Well, that's why we had the walkie-talkies back then
Yeah, we had
to communicate.
walkie-talkies, but even, like, sometimes we didn't even have those, and you would just, like, leave a note on your truck
Right.
for when someone came out, they could at least figure out what you were doing or
Yeah,
what
why
happened
you
to you.
weren't there. Yeah.
I
Or you'd give
remember
them
I
the old
remember Uncle Jeffrey and I remember we would write a few like, he would write a note and leave it on, like, dad's truck sometimes, like, "Oh, we hit a 7 point, we're going to look for him," or something. Um,
if you were close enough in, proximity, you could potentially get the "woo, woo, woo."
woo or a horn honk.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was fun though. You were always in bow season, you were always, and obviously then once gun season came around, that was part of the cool part about gun season is the action. You always felt like you were in the action because somebody from the group shoots, you know it. I mean,
Yeah, it was sounded like
you're
it was blows you out of
you.
your own tree, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Weird.
Somebody out of the group shoots and yeah, you're like, hell yeah, somebody got one.
Partially because of the fact that we used to hunt a dozen people on 70 acres. Everyone
Yeah.
had their own spots. And surprisingly, there was only like one or two of those dozen spots that you could, and everyone was in blaze orange, but you could see somebody.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know.
Most other, the property was like so thick. Other spots, you couldn't
That's
see
a
anybody, but they were literally like right over the hill from you.
Yeah, I mean, that's perks of the big woods, Western New York right there.
Someone would shoot and you'd just light up. You'd be like, oh my God,
I
something's
mean,
coming.
that would be opening day too, because after that we
Yeah.
were pushing,
Yeah. We were pushing. Yeah.
that we were pushing, and that's how this hunt happened, except we actually it kinda happened by chance of just the timing of everything because we all set up to push what we call our bottom, and now our bottom is a place that we literally only go in when
Now,
we shed hunt.
or
That's it.
dad's beaver hunting.
Or yeah, or a deer goes down there.
Yeah.
That's it. Tracking, beaver bumping, or shed hunting. And that's I mean,
Beaver
you could
trapping.
probably count on one hand for sure too the number of times we go down into this now. Back then, we pushed it twice a day. It was like
We tried to
well,
prolong it as much as we would push one side of it.
right. Thinking that the creek actually so the creek runs right down the middle of it. Like
Right
right
down the
down
middle
the
of our
middle. And
property pretty much,
yeah, and
or one side of it,
it's a big creek. Like it's
deep,
wide in some spots and I mean,
deeper in others.
yeah, it's very deep in others. So, but the deer don't give a shit, dude.
Oh, they don't
They
give a
act like
shit,
that
but
thing is not even there, but
it's
we
hard
acted
to
like
because you can't cross it. Like,
that's true. That's
there's
true.
very few spots on that
That
whole creek that you can cross.
right, that a human could cross with boots on or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. It's all deep. So it was such a separation point in the property where you were like, "Okay,
We'll push the back of
we'll
it
we'll
and
push this
then
side of it in the
we'll push the
morning,
front
and then we'll come back and we'll push the other side. Then we'll go to lunch,
and then
and then we'll push it again."
we'll push both of them. And we might do it from the opposite direction. Never paying attention to the wind,
No.
never it was really the only strategy was about really how many guys we had and
Yeah, utilizing those guys.
utilizing the guys as pushers and as posters. The pushers were the guys that were in the brush walking through, and the posters were the guys that would typically set up in tree stands or just find a good vantage point on the ground and be up ahead of the pushers, and they would be more than likely reaping the benefits of the push that we were doing
But half the time, they were probably pushing out half the deer going in
prior to get yeah.
to
Oh,
finding. Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, how many times were we setting up for a drive and there was just you just
Heard
hear
shooting. You're like, "What
melee
the hell's
going on.
going on already?"
Yeah.
You're standing out on the road waiting for someone
Right.
to give you the
Yeah.
signal, like, "You can come in now, we're ready."
Right. The pushers are waiting on the road to go in and the drive or the posters are on their way in. You hear shooting from every different direction and then all of a sudden the radios are like it's going back into the drive. It's going back into the bottom.
"Oh, he's going back in the drive. Okay, we might as well start."
Yeah, we might as well start. Are you guys set up? No, 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 but go ahead and just start. We got them running at this point. Like, Jesus. Oh, man.
Funny theories we had.
Well, and it's funny to like the way that we hunt the property now with the property has grown significantly. We
Yeah.
hunt it with far less people and feel like we're doing 4 times the damage in the the amount of pressure that we're putting on it.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, yeah, it was half the size back then, 4 times as many people, and we're just walking through it multiple times a day.
Insane.
But anyway, we're setting up for this drive, and I think we had 8 people for the drive. So it was going to be 4v4, 4 pushers,
4 on
4
4.
4 posters. So we had 2 people posting way up front on the road side of the creek, and we had 2 people posting on the backside of our property on the backside of the creek. All the while, we're going to start from the road, and we're just going to 4 of us, 2 on one side of the creek, 2 on the other, are going to walk in their direction through the thick stuff and get the deer out and moving. Okay. So everybody gets set up, or everybody's getting set up, and the front side of the road, I believe, was set. My grandpa and my uncle and Uncle Jay were going on the backside. And as they're getting to their spots, they're still together. Oh no, I'm sorry. They were not together. Uncle Jay dropped grandpa off on the first ridge. He was going back a little farther to the second ridge. And as he was going back there, 6 deer came off the neighboring property running, and they came basically right past him, and it was 5 doe and the granddaddy. Like the guy,
The
the
guy.
wide buck that we had seen in bow season, okay? So he shoots like as they were going kind of over the hill, but they were going over the hill and potentially could have turned and given grandpa a shot. So he's on the radio, Granddaddy Buck, fucking Granddaddy Buck just ran into the drive. Dad, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. I think grandpa shot once or twice.
Yeah, he did. I
Missed,
remember hearing that.
missed. But the deer ran more into the middle of the drive. The deer ran into the bottom, like where we were coming through. So all of this is getting shouted on the radio back and forth, whatever. On the road side of the creek, it's me, and I'm hugging the creek. Like I'm staying on the creek line, and my dad is to my left, and I can't even shoot a gun yet. I mean, I can shoot a gun, but I can't legally hunt with a gun yet.
Yeah.
So I don't have a gun. My dad's, he was staying 20, 30 yards to my left. And then Papa Vic is on the creek side, on the other side of the creek. And then above him is Uncle Jimmy. And we're all just trying to walk, in a line. So we're getting set up. All of a sudden, boom, boom, like a couple more shots ring off. We're like, holy shit. Uncle Ricky gets on the radio. He's one of the posters that's in a stand on Dad and I's side of the creek, and he goes, I just shot him. Like we just heard cackling. I got him, this and that, whatever. But he's like, after he hit him, he's coming back towards the drivers. Well, all of a sudden, boom, another shot, and he drops one of the doe, I think, in the creek, like in the other direction. Anyway, we start the drive, and we're walking through this thick stuff. My heart is like pounding now because like we just had a shit ton of action
Yeah,
in
a
a
lot of
short
shooting
period
going
of
on.
time, and all the while, like as like you're 10 years old, what the motive is. Like we're going to kick up the deer, we're going, like that's kind of our duty as
Yeah.
the drivers. But it's a little bit of like a anxious feeling because you're like, am I going to
You're
step on one of these things? Is it
yeah,
going to
you're in the
jump up
thick.
right in front of me? Like I can't see anything. I'm crawling half the time. I'm bird dogging it. Well, dude, we get probably 150 yards into the drive, and I hear Papa Vic, and he's like, "Hey, Jimmy, there's a big buck, and he's right in front of me." And Uncle Jimmy's like,
Is he dead?
is he alive? Is he dead? Like, what's going on?" And he's like, "No, he's alive. I could see he's standing up." And Uncle Jimmy's like, "Well,
Shoot him.
shoot him." So I kind of weaseled my way out of the brush at this point, and I could now see the whole thing, dude. And the granddaddy is literally his front on his front legs, and he's facing dead away from us. but he heard us coming. So he's standing up like this and he's facing dead away from us. Papa Vic is 30 yards from me, right across the creek, and obviously all the shootings, like we're parallel with each other. He's shooting perpendicular straight in front of us.
Yeah.
And I watch him take the shot and I watch this thing fold. Like he disappeared in the brush again. Uncle Papa Vic's like, Jimmy, I got him. I got him. So we kind of Dad and I had to go around. There's a big bend in the creek. We had to kind of go around so that we could kind of see what was going on. And so we go around, and as we're going around, we could see the blood trail from when Uncle Ricky shot him.
Yeah.
Because there's snow on the ground. And he dude, that deer, Uncle Ricky shot him. He pulled himself on his front legs, like probably 60, 70 yards, swam across the part of the creek that was 3 to 4 feet deep. There's no way he swam with his front legs across, got up onto the other side, and that's where Vic shot him. That's how freaking strong these animals are. And so he shoots, they go walking up to him, dude, and Vic goes to grab the deer's rack, and the deer shakes his rack out of his hand. While we're across the creek watching all this. We're like, holy shit. So they put a final shot into him, and that was it. But it was freaking insane, dude. It was insane. I'd never seen the strength of that deer. And then Uncle Ricky comes up and, it was far less of a thing back then. But these days, whose deer is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whose deer is it? Is the
Yeah.
one that, the deer probably wasn't going anywhere.
No.
Was he? But he obviously, he was still alive when we were coming through there. Whose deer was it? This, that, whatever. Well, that was all figured out. But I mean, this deer, he doesn't score that much, probably 130, maybe
Yeah, I
130,
think he
mid
does.
130s. But he's 24 inches wide. His tines were not that big, old gray face on him, big body on him. And I just remember getting that thing to the road, and that was a celebration, and just a feat that as a group, there was 8 of us there, dude, and we all felt like we got that thing. At least I did.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially Dad and I saw that thing in bow season, and so we had that connection to it already. But then the next day, we did the same drive again. Same drive through the
Of course.
bottom. There was only 6 of us, or maybe 5 or 6 of us. Grandpa shot grandpa or uncle? No, yeah, grandpa shot a doe, and it ran over the hill back towards the neighbors, where the deer they had come from originally. So we went down and we found it. Well, we were probably I don't know, 30 or 40 yards from the property line, the neighbor's property line. And like you said, a guy came through the woods who's very well known in the area for killing a lot of big deer at that time, when it wasn't like it is now. It was a feat to kill big deer.
Yeah.
It was you were something at that point. But he came walking through the woods, and we're like, hey, so-and-so, what's going on, this and that. And he's like, oh, just looking for, and he explained the deer. And we're like, man, he's dead.
Yeah.
But he was hunting them. That's, this is before trail cameras. This is before any of the technology that tells us what deer are there, and, lets us that in-depth level of scouting and all that stuff. This was well before that. So it was kind of a crazy thing. Man, even back then, this guy finds out about a deer. He doesn't have any property anywhere near us, but he's hunting this deer because he knows he's here. He knocked on doors, he got permission, whatever he did. But that deer, that just shows you that was like killing the Godfather at, we did a
Yeah.
few
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago. It was
Yeah.
one of those moments. It was that big of a deal. And I don't know, that might have started our run of not being particularly liked by certain neighbors up there, but I don't know. But Either way,
Well, that was just because it's even more so then we were from Ohio.
yeah, we were the Ohio.
Out of state people coming in
Right.
and shooting our deer,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. No, very true.
But
Very true. But yeah, that was insane, and that was the first that deer I'll never forget because that was what introduced me to the rut. Like, that was what I
yeah,
made sense of the rut and what it the impact that it had on me at a young age, and then we put it all together in gun season and ended up getting that deer, and, I mean, we have him he's mounted in camp still.
he is.
Uncle Ricky's deer, he's mounted in camp. He don't
Called
need
him a
nothing.
called him a camp buck. But yeah, I mean, you look back at it, it's obviously his had there not been anybody there,
Yeah, he woulda get
he's tracking that deer and he's coming up and
right.
finishing him off, you know?
Right, right.
Um,
No, very true. But yeah,
but
we did. We called it a camp deer, and I think everybody called it that at that point, and everybody was cool with it because it was it was just an insane experience. I mean, I remember we literally, we kind of paraded that thing around that night. You drove around with the tailgate open back then.
that's what you
You know,
did,
you
yeah.
you 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 were proud of that moment. It didn't have to be. It amplified the situation, being that it was that deer, being that it was that big of a buck, but it didn't have to be that. It could have been a doe. It could have been a spike, forkhorn, whatever.
Yeah,
Like it didn't have to be that to promote it. Like, you were just proud of being a hunter, number one, and having some success while you're doing it.
yep.
And we paraded that thing around. We hunted the next day, got that other doe, and then I remember going back to Uncle Rick, like driving literally all the way back to Cleveland. Went to Uncle Ricky's, skinned that thing out all the way, quartered it, everything, and just we took it from field to plate basically. But it was cool to take in that experience at a young age on a deer, that meant that much to the crew.
The
Like,
group, yeah.
talk about foreshadowing. Didn't even know it at the time, but, like, what that was kinda preparing me for, at least, is yeah, it's funny. Shit's funny.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's cool. Cool to come back and figure out where it all like, which hunts really
Yeah, pulled it
lighted
out
the
of you.
fire.
I mean, what rut hunt do you remember? Like, what's one of the first rut hunts you
Honestly, it was probably, I could think of a couple, but it was probably the day you shot that big 8
Oh, yeah.
because
What
you
was that?
were
I was 18? Yeah,
you were 18, and again, I just didn't get the bow hunting, like, you got the first years when you were legal to hunt, which was 14, I think, in New York, like,
yeah.
you got a couple you released a few arrows, like, you got some
Oh, yeah.
again, with basketball, I just didn't get the
At time, yeah.
time that I to hunt, so
Yeah, I always forget that. You were always gun hunting more because that was either
yeah, we
after
were
the
done.
season or doing
Yeah,
during Thanksgiving break or Christmas break or whatever, then
right.
you didn't have
Yeah,
to.
basketball consumed a lot of my time for that, but yeah, that when you shot that big 8, that's definitely probably one of the first moments, and again, it was a I don't know like, it was a big ass deer, and I
Right.
think that's probably what sits in your mind just because they act different when they're chasing, it's not
Yeah.
like you get the little bucks that, they're like, "Man, man," they do their thing, but that was like presence in the woods, like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
you
Yeah.
felt it. And it was the same situation. That doe came blasting over like a neighboring property, and I just had time to like look up the hill and figure out what was going on. And
Mhm.
on her tail, I just see that massive deer in a huge rack. And like
Yeah.
I was messing with a couple other bucks that morning with my grunt, and I grabbed my grunt, I remember, but then I literally just froze, and I was like, it was the first time I felt like this call is going to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I just like soaked it in. I'm like, I know they're not running right by me, or if they do, they're not stopping. Like they were not stopping.
Yeah.
They were not stopping. But it was just that was insane because it was just it was full on pursuit.
Oh, yeah, it was
And
the
I can watch I can literally in my whole head, I can watch the deer, both of the deers, their whole trail. Like, I can watch them running through the woods exactly where they went. They did, like, a couple zigzags, and then they, like, jumped over the ridge and then down the hill, and, like, I saw where the doe was running, and as soon as, like, it, like, registered to me what was happening, I was like, "Holy shit." I'm like, "She's running right at David."
yeah,
Like, right at David.
and she did. She ran me right the fuck over.
So and that was yeah, that was just nuts because
I wish I could see it from that perspective because it's like, the moments prior to you getting like one of the at the time that was probably the biggest moment of my hunting life,
yeah,
but what what happens in the moments prior to you seeing or hearing or even knowing that deer exists, you know what I mean?
yeah, like,
Like,
where
but
do
you
they
got to experience that for me, and it's just like, I don't know, that's I wish I could see him from that perspective because I didn't get to see him that long
yeah,
before he was 12 yards and I was drawn, and at that point I had a window in the pine branch. I mean, it was a foot
small.
in diameter. It was not big, but it was shoulder, right behind the shoulder. I could see his little elbow, and I'm just like,
That's all I
give me
need
a
to
couple
see.
inches behind that.
Yeah,
And I watched my arrow just a blood hole just appear, and then he disappeared, and all I heard was just
crash.
crashing through the creek because he crossed the creek. I mean, we talked about it. There's not many places that are easy to cross. It literally sounded like you threw 10 deer into the creek when he was crossing it, and then he just
Yeah,
I couldn't hear him anymore. But I
but it
knew at
felt
that point I smoked him.
yeah, but I just yeah, it was crazy that anticipation of just, like, real I was trying to take it all in, like, I was in awe. He froze me because I had never really seen a deer that big in the woods. I don't think up and I mean, yeah, rarely. I was
Right.
like, "Damn, that is a monster buck." Like, that's a big buck.
Yeah, and he was. I mean, yeah,
He was, he still is, yeah, but it was wild. As soon as she disappeared, I could see him like that with that heavy deer run,
uh-huh.
just right behind her, and then he disappears under the pines in the bottom, and I was literally just like, "Oh my god." I was, like, waiting. I'm like, "Holy shit, what's gonna happen?" And it felt like normally, it feels like forever. It felt like it was 2 seconds. It's
Oh,
literally
dude.
felt like it was 2 seconds, and you were just, like, screaming on the radio, and I was like and I knew I'm like, I watched them go I can't see you, but he disappeared, like, into your section of woods,
Yeah.
where, like, as soon as I saw him disappear, I was like, "He's gotta be within 40 yards of David now at this point."
Yeah. He probably I mean, he probably was close, 40, 50 yards at that
And
point.
yeah, oh my god, you were screaming, and I remember I was just like, I literally was I can remember my release hitting the tree because I was literally, like, punching the
Is
side of the tree. I was so excited, and then I it dawned on me too, I remember, I'm like, "Oh my god, there's a" like, when I saw the deer and the doe coming, there was a 6 point, like, 30 yards from me
Yeah.
in, like, a blowdown tree, and he was just, like he wasn't laying down, he was just I don't know, he was cocking around, and I think it was one of the deer I was originally messing with the grunt call. I don't know. I was probably trying to shoot him,
Yeah.
but I just remember punching the tree and I was like yelling and I looked back and that thing was just staring at me.
Pinned on you.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't even care. Like I don't even care at this point.
Oh, dude, that was awesome too because I mean, yeah, I got to let the arrow go, but what a another camp deer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I don't know, I think that's the coolest part about how we enjoy hunting is that like whether I'm down here, up there sitting next to you, 150 yards away in another tree stand, a quarter mile away in another tree stand. Like when you get that call, when I get that call that you shot something, that dad shot something, that Uncle Jay shot anybody that that's in our like tight core hunting group, it's a win across the board.
It's almost more exciting for you
Yeah.
than you feel like it could be for them.
Yes.
But it is the
Yes.
most for you, but I remember that's that's one of the distinct moments, that particular hunt, where I was, like, literally going bonkers in the tree, and I didn't release an arrow, and nobody
Yeah,
was even with me. Like, nobody was with me to see it. I didn't have a camera on or
right.
nothing, but I remember punching the tree, and I was just like, I was probably swearing, and I was like, "Hell yeah, like, we got him."
We
And
got
I
him.
didn't get shit, but
Yeah, but we did. He was coming back to camp with us.
yeah, and
That's
I
all
just
that mattered.
yeah, it was nuts watching that deer run by, and I'm like, "Damn, I don't have a chance at that," but I was like, "Oh my god, we have other hunters in the woods."
But but he's going in a pretty decent direction.
I was like, go
What are
right, a
the
little more."
chances? What are the chances? And that's how crazy some of this timing stuff is too, because that talk about one of the trips that you got dropped off. You got dropped off. Mom dropped you off midday because I hunted with dad that morning and I was up in a
Yeah,
stand. I was in a stand that was probably at least a quarter mile, if not farther from where I was going that evening. But since you came up there, we were tag teaming it. While we're like, I want to go hunt, in a stand that's close but not too close to Dean. We can walk in together, we'll walk out together. Like that's what I
yeah,
want to do. But that morning when I was hunting with dad, he was like, I think he was in the upper orchard and I was clear on the other side of the property. But dude, I saw 4 bucks. I think 2 of them were just like nose to the ground cruising, but 2 of them were like on a doe, again, like on a doe.
yeah,
And at that point in our hunting journey, like you didn't you wouldn't have passed up going to a different stand in the afternoon than you did having that morning in the morning. Like
no,
you wouldn't have changed locations, but it was just like it was more about like
yeah,
you and
going in
I
the
are
hunt together.
going to create the energy together. Like we weren't hunting right together, but it was a stand that actually you, dad, and one of our buddies put up the weekend before. And I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to go down and into the bottom or close to the bottom and hunt that stand. You'll be up on the ridge and we'll see what happens. But I don't know. It was fate. It was the big man upstairs. The good Lord blessed us with that opportunity that evening, and it was all supposed to happen that way. But it was pretty nuts.
It
It was
was
pretty
nuts.
nuts.
I remember another 8 point actually was on that Doe's trail. I don't know what it was, maybe 30 minutes later.
Yeah, he was.
Decent 8 point, and then went all the way back down to you. I think it laid
He laid
down.
down twice. He
It's
laid down.
kind of the fun part about being close or like in the hunt together, because I couldn't even see the deer at that point. But you're like, I remember you kept telling me, you're like, grunt super loud. And you're like, you would be on the radio. You're like, he hears you. Like he got up, and I would be like, my heart's pounding again. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my
he
god, is he
wasn't
coming?
gonna.
And no, he didn't go
Yeah,
anywhere.
dude,
It
he
was like
wasn't.
60 degrees and sunny that afternoon. It was a
Yeah,
beautiful November day. Which
it,
some of those days in November where it's like mid 50s and sunny and leaves are crunching. It's just sometimes it can be dead all day, but then it'll just erupt and the
and it
leaves.
did.
But it did that afternoon.
Yes, it did. That was crazy. It was so cool. So cool. And dad shot a doe that night, ended up coming down, bringing the four-wheeler, and he got on that thing's trail and he was just like
Yeah, because we could not cross.
we couldn't cross the
We could
creek,
not cross
but
anywhere. We were trying.
he soaked himself to cross because he was so hyped up.
Yeah, he disappeared and he was like, "I'm getting across,"
Uh,
because he was
right.
feeling our energy of how big the deer or like what we were saying. He
Yeah.
didn't even know.
He had no clue. Yeah,
He was
no, he had
probably,
no
this has
clue.
got to be like an 8 point or like a little,
And
something small. But I remember when he got across
yeah, remember
and
he got across. He's like, I got blood. And then he's like tracking a little bit. And like it was like 8 seconds. And he's like,
oh my
holy God, what a buck.
god,
He's like tweaking. And we got in that rhino, dude. We had to drive. Remember, we
all
drove
the way
all the
out
way
and
back
around.
around, back all
We
the way through
did.
the front field. And we came. I remember we were hitting two wheels. You and I were driving, blazing through the property, like pedal to the metal on that
Yeah,
thing, like high
fishtailing,
fiving, fucking
freaking.
just
Oh my
fired up.
god,
And then shout out to Uncle Jimmy. He tied one on that night celebrating that deer. Just we were
and
at the seizure house and he
he
was
told us
all
he was going to.
yeah, he's like,
I'm gonna celebrate this deer.
I'm gonna celebrate this. He was the one who coined it, the badge. He's like, that's a badge. You got the badge.
We, yeah,
Biggest bull buck in the family. You got the
yeah,
badge.
and you did for a while. And what's funny, what's what's funny for foreshadowing is he coined that, and then later
He
he
took it
took it
a long time late. I mean,
a long time later. Yeah, he
probably
took
like
it.
6, 8 years later.
Yeah, he took it. He took the badge, and then you took it back. That's crazy.
I took it back.
Wow. It's been a trade-off of badges with you and Uncle Jimmy.
That's true, dude. Daggers took the cake
No one's really
by
even come
storm.
close.
By storm.
Yeah, daggers just blew everyone away, and no one's even come
The
close since then.
badge, the badge to us at our camp was the biggest archery buck.
Archery buck,
That's
yeah.
the badge. Because,
Yeah.
the gun bucks were some of it was luck of the draw if we were pushing, whatever, this and
Yeah.
that, but and we didn't take anything away from them. Normally, you would kill one good buck, meaning a 2.5-year-old or better a year ish.
Yeah.
Um, and so, those came more frequently, but the archery ones were very, very few and far between. Especially at that point. So yeah, that is crazy. The badge went from that buck
It's
to
funny.
daggers,
That
probably,
buck, he said, he's like, "It's gonna take a long time to dethrone that badge," and it did.
and it
And
did,
then when he
and he
shot
got it.
daggers, we were like, "We
It's
ain't
gonna
topping
take a
that."
lot. Yeah, 156 on the hill with a bow.
And then you shot Nipsey, and now I'm like, "I don't know if we're gonna top that."
It'll be topped. It will be topped.
It'll be tough to top that one.
Yeah, it'll be
Gotta
tough, but
gotta get some. Yeah, yeah.
we just
That
honestly,
would take people gotta pass deer for that to happen.
well, yeah, you need, and it no disrespect to anybody, but you need help from the neighbors.
Yeah,
You need,
neighbors gotta pass some deer that
because they're
that
gonna see them.
that are gonna be that they would be like, "No way, can't
Right,
pass this deer up." But
right.
you're gonna have to pass a 140
Plus.
plus deer for that to happen,
Oh yeah.
and I don't know who's doing that, but they
Yeah.
should. Or
And
not they should, I don't blame anybody, but,
if
like,
it but the thing is, the hard part with it up there, and we're kind of reverting on what we've been talking about as far as the big deer, but
yeah,
it's Dean and I, and this is a personal goal. It's nobody else's but Dean and I. But one of our like Mount Rushmore goals for life would be to be able to um manage the land to produce a 200-inch deer in New York.
yes.
That's the goal, you know? And quite honestly, Nipsey was probably it, or he would have given it a run if he could have made it. But
So would have
there's
Don, though, like,
Don would have
we
absolutely,
the thing is
absolutely.
we have genetics up there.
That's the hardest part.
We have genetics up there to do it, like, there's 200-inch genetics up there, I promise you.
Every year
They
there's a
just need
buck.
to get old enough, and
Right.
that's the toughest thing. Two or 3 you get 2 or 3 neighbors on the horn that are fully bought on with that, and it'll happen. It'll
Oh yeah.
100% happen, but, and I don't blame, but it's there for the taking, and again, this is just a personal goal, like, I don't that's
Yeah.
not what it's about, but it's just it's a cool goal, I think, to have because New York is such a state where that would never happen. Like,
Right.
it
Oh,
doesn't
absolutely.
happen.
No, it doesn't.
It so
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. It's not like Ohio where you're getting like a handful of 200 shot every year.
yeah,
There's I don't
and
even
there's
know if there
probably more
was one
and there's
in New
well,
York.
yeah, I don't know, and there's probably more in Ohio than you even hear about, you
For
know?
sure. For
Um,
sure.
but
But it just for us and how we grew up, and like I said, when we started hunting and having that, um, you know, like there wasn't a standard. We didn't see big deer, but to have that in our lifetime go from that to being able to, yeah, like give back to the land that's given to us and then have it give back again with a deer of that caliber would be cool. Would be
be
cool.
awesome,
Would
be
be cool.
awesome. But yeah, it's
Road to
uh,
200, baby.
the,
So,
uh the habitat and the genetics are in our immediate area. They're 100% there.
yeah, they're favorable for the situation
So,
for sure.
that's what's going back to what we talked about last week, that's just all about the like, it's not the It's not the area, like the state area, like that state grows big. I mean, it does. It is
Right.
about that, but it's not like that's what it's all about because New York can produce that big a deer. There's just too many hunters and too many buck tags that they give out, and too many, especially like residents have the mindset like I'm going to fill both my buck tags,
Right.
not like they just want to fill them, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
If they want to put meat in the freezer, but like it's not like I'll give up this buck tag to let this deer go, see what he does.
right. That's not
Um,
that's the but once again, it's to each their own. However you want to enjoy your hunt. It's just that's a personal goal for for us cuz you know, we talked about it last podcast like shooting a 200-inch deer isn't really a big deal anymore unless you do it in New York.
no, that's kind of true though. Like, yeah, the people like
I mean, yeah, if you're gonna go to Iowa or Ohio and
Ohio,
you shoot
Kansas,
a
Ohio,
200-inch deer, yeah,
still a huge.
it's
It is a special thing there, but it just with the connection, I think of social media, you just see it often now,
mhm.
and it's a lot of like, yeah, it's never in one of those states where,
New Hampshire,
yeah, you don't see them
Maryland,
in those
200.
states. So I think it would be
New
cool, but
Yeah,
it's gonna take. Obviously, we already put a lot of work in, and so do a lot of landowners around in the area. It's going to take a lot of luck, honestly, because
yeah.
you're going to have to. The deer's going to have to be there with the genetics, and then he's going to have to live past 2 years old, which is going to be huge because
I
they're
mean,
so
Nipsey did it.
stupid when they're two.
Nipsey did it. He did it.
He did it.
He did it. I mean, he got to the 180 class deer.
Yeah,
And I mean that, you know, realistically, like that deer's like 180 class 4-year-old buck. And if he makes it to 5 with the jump that he made from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, like he's getting close.
he's going to be
He's
close.
getting close. But yeah, you got
I
to get
think he
him.
would be there, but
You
yeah,
got to get them. You got to get them to that age class where they get smart enough to, they know they've been around the block. They know, a lot of the hunters up there are consistent. Even us, we're consistent with some of our habits and entry and exit and this and that. They know how to get around and
100%,
survive.
100%.
If they can do that, yeah, the genetics are definitely there.
They're there.
Well, I think that's a wrap,
I
ladies
think
and
that's a
gentlemen.
wrap.
If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you don't already. And you can click one of the links on this video after to watch one of our other podcasts or one of your favorite hunts. Subscribe to us on Spotify and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the interaction. Send us a DM. Let us know what you want to hear. Other than that, have a fantastic week.
Seize the day.
Seize the day and seize the rest of the week. Make it a good one. And we'll see you right back here Wednesday
Wednesday.
on Goose Chasing.
Can't wait.